and it's interesting, you know, it's interesting in particle physics we have these data management, data volume problems that we have to deal with, and these computer science problems. And in fact, that's why places like CERN have pushed a lot of things like, you know, like the World Wide Web is a CERN product, right? It came out of CERN because we have to solve these problems.
So we're just waiting for the next great invention.
So all the data is available to the world, or is top secret for the CERN community? Or?
So each collaboration, so this experiment is private within that. So you have to be a member to see the data. And there's another big experiment running at the same time, the other side of the ring. We won't be able to access their data. We only get to see it when they present it at a conference or write a journal publication.
So in principle, like if there was an event happening now while we're speaking, in principle, we're not actually supposed to show it to you until it's gone through an approval process. And there's a plan because there's Frisbee hitting over the next few hours to have a meeting Sunday for the collaboration to decide what pictures to show the world.
So you guys are competing against other collaborations?
Yeah. So there's two big experiments, Atlas and CMS, that are trying to do the same physics.
And 2 is the minimum number you want because you want to do science and have someone confirm or not confirm your physics results. So if you had only one collaboration with everybody working at one thing, you wouldn't be able to really reproduce results as independently, right? You'd always have some concern, noise in the detector or something. So there's 2, and that's the minimum number, I guess.
It's kind of like a non-physics question, but like I'm kind of impressed by this international collaboration. Like, can you talk about sort of the spirit of people from all over the world collaborating like to one continent? It's kind of
it's one of the most fun things we do. You know, it's this huge international community. I mean, how many languages would you hear in the control room on any given day? More than one.
More than 4 or 5.
More than 4 or 5. You'll definitely hear Russian,
Italian,
French,
Italian,
possibly German, Korean. You know, actually
Polish.
So it used to be when you give a talk, you show who your collaborators are, okay? And particle physics got to the point where we couldn't really show all the collaborators, so they showed the institutions. And the last talk I gave, I showed the countries. Okay, I mean that's what it's gotten to. So it's a big international thing. Part of being effective particle physicist is learning about the cultural differences. I mean, you have a German, an Italian, and a Korean in a room trying to work on the same thing. And you've got 3 very different cultures, and not necessarily, you know, understanding what certain phrases mean, right? So in Japanese culture, for example, there's different ways of saying no, none of which are saying no. And you have to understand.
They all start with yes.
You have to say yes and say no. I mean, is there anybody Japanese here? I mean, that's
much more polite, right? So,
right.
And we're the Americans, or or Canadian, or so we have our own culture that we bring too. So it's it is one of the more enjoyable things about working there, that you're united by the science that you want to do, or maybe making the detector that you built work with somebody else's detector.
And that's part of the mission of CERN, right? CERN was built as a European consortium. It's actually in France and Switzerland at the same time. The beam's going around. When you're working there, you're going through border control all the time, although they've relaxed border controls now. And that's by design. They wanted all the European nations, physicists, working together on an international project, which is a much better use of their time than trying to figure out how to make weapons of mass destruction to kill each other. And instead they get into a room, and they still want to kill each other, but that would slow down the physics output, and so the German doesn't kill the Italian and vice versa.
Wasn't there someone recently arrested working on the project for spying or something?
Yeah, there was There are 4 experiments at the LHC, and this is one of the 2 that we haven't mentioned. There was I guess a postdoc or a scientist who was arrested under suspicion by the French government of being involved in some terrorist activity. I don't think they've been charged, but French law is a little bit like our law right now. People can be kept indefinitely. So I don't think they've released any official statements about even who it is, but the community knows who it is. Nature, if you're interested, go to Nature, the journal online. There's some interviews with family members of this person.
So does that, does the government bureaucracy often prop up this sort of injury of research, or is it?
Yes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So a major issue, and many of you will have experienced this, is getting visas for people to work here. And the international students, there have been years, I don't think it's happened recently, where the incoming class of graduate students is being hung up because of the visa process, and students have been unable to arrive. And that's certainly true at the postdoc level. Put yourself in the mindset of an intelligence agency, and you have somebody who's worked at a nuclear physics institute in Russia or China or somewhere, trying to travel to the US to work on a project you, as an intelligence agent, don't understand. Okay? And that can lead to problems. And the ironic thing is, nothing we do has any possible military, terroristic, any sort of application whatsoever.
No combat value
Don't get the
whatsoever.
wrong ideas about
But-
Avengers and the
Despite books to the contrary, which are all made up, they're fiction. There's absolutely nothing that we do that's secret or anything. But intelligence agencies, well, the use of the word intelligence in that phrase is maybe, not we as physicists think of as intelligence, right? And so it's a problem at times. It's absolutely a problem. And it's actually a problem that's being raised at the level of Congress and is discussed in the White House, that American science is being impeded by this paranoia.
The only people who will ever be harmed by LHC research will be if there's an accident and someone screws up, it will probably be their fault.
The experiment is incredibly dangerous to the people working on the experiment. There's high voltage.
It's underground.
There's explosive gases.
Radiation.
There's all kinds of things. There's a lot of effort going into making it safe. And there's a big button to hit when all hydrogen is. We were testing the big red button last week.
So a lot of what CERN does, too, to help with their process is you need to get visas. You go through CERN, and they have diplomatic, people whose job it is to help get visas for people to go to CERN. So there's a mechanism to work within the bureaucracy, and I guess that's part of the mission of CERN, too, to bring people together. So one consequence of that is when you get your CERN ID, you don't want to lose it, because it's a diplomatic paper, basically, and it's painful to replace it. It costs you some money, too, but they have to control it carefully. But they do try to make it more smooth than it would be otherwise. So.